So good morning, everybody that has popped on. Even the pug is on this morning. I saw that's absolutely awesome. I think that is Samson and Alex's pug that way. Good morning. I can't look at that face because I can't not laugh. It's so dang cute. Okay, it's the cutest face that we got there today. So good morning, everybody that popped on. Like I said, this is recorded. I didn't require anybody to be on for this one. This is actually something that personally that I decided to do and stuff because I believed it was something extremely important. So what I want to do is want to kind of really, set the stage for 2019. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story. And most of you guys have heard this story in great detail. So what I want to do is I want to just share, why this was so important for me to do today. Because the one thing that I do on a constant basis is I'm always evaluating us as a company. I'm always evaluating us as practitioners. I'm always evaluating, what we're putting out there. And I'm constantly hovering over and looking what everybody's doing across the world. I'm looking at, for example, what people are putting out there. Like I've always said, and I'm proud about this, is when everybody else is wasting time, I'm trying to always think how we can make an impact, not as just a culture, but on an individual level of what we're doing and making sure that the public understands where we're coming from. Now, that's a tough task. It's a tough task because it brings me back to when I first met Christy. When I first met my beautiful wife, remember, she had already seen a chiropractor. She was actually under their care. She actually was taking 10 standard process supplements. Let me say it again. She was taking 10 standard process supplements. She was getting adjusted. She had medical care like crazy. You guys all know the story. You've heard me tell it repeatedly. But don't get me wrong. I also in the back of my mind was going, why isn't this working? Do you understand? And from the simple fact of I started to go, I was taught no different than the chiropractor that was actually seeing Christy. Do you understand that I interned with the chiropractor that was seeing Christy? That's how I met my wife. I went to get adjusted by, the story that you guys may not know is I went over to the, I got a scar. Wait, Brandon, right here. I got a scar right here, okay? This scar is the reason why I met my wife. So you ever see my scar right here? I basically, we were up north, up Crivets where I grew up. I was actually doing a water ski show. Pyramid collapse, hit my head there, got a concussion, black eye, the whole story. And I was interning here in Green Bay, and I was actually dizzy and I had a big old black eye. I went over to Dr. Chris's office, him and I interned at the Troxel intern program. For some of you guys may know it in program. The rest of you don't. This is a Gonstead technique-based stuff, really good stuff. So anyways, and I walked in there and sat down and was sitting there chatting with them. And my wife, AKA didn't know her at the time, walked in with no appointment and sat down, and she needed adjusted because she had a bad headache. That's how we met, okay? Now, my point telling you the story was this guy was a good chiropractor. This guy used standard process supplements, okay? And I started to sit there and go, how the hell is she so darn sick? How is she so darn sick? Yet she was getting adjusted even by what I believe is a great technique, which I do use myself, okay? She was taking some great things from a standard process company, which even back then, 20 years ago, was even better than this today because of its ingredients. And I was going, and as I was developing all the concepts of the wellness way, I was like going, why is this woman so darn sick? And then it came up to me, okay? It came up to me with discussions with him on what was wrong with her. And I started to realize that the 10 supplements that actually Dr. Chris was giving her, there wasn't anything wrong with them. They weren't going to hurt her, but the thinking was all wrong. 2019, I say this to the public, but I've never talked to you guys about this, okay? What separates us beyond a shadow of a doubt is our thinking, okay? Let me say it again. And not from a social media standpoint, not from a standpoint of how we market and our information talks. It's how we approach a patient, all right? And what I'm going to do today is this, because here's what happens. Just to let you guys know, I've been doing this last 3 months. Have you guys noticed I haven't posted a lot on chat the last 3 months? You guys noticed I haven't made many comments on the doctor chat and stuff like that? because I'm always watching. And what I mean by that is this, is I want to make sure that the company will always go in a very congruent, a very precise direction that way. And so watching you guys talk clinically, watch you guys talk that way, it actually gives me a great idea to see where most people are coming from. And then I was down by Dr. Jeremy Maxwell, and we were discussing some hormonal things, and I had 6 tests laid out there, and all the students were there. And I was actually going over them, and then I realized, once again, I understand why the students, and half of them were Troxel interns. Interns that, for example, the same intern program I came out with, they may be able to adjust their technique, but they're gonna fail just like everybody else was. Because when they looked at a lab, what happened was they were so foreign, and I'm not even talking the details of the lab. I'm talking the big concept. And I'm going to show you, for example, today, how when I discuss some lab stuff with you, where I want you guys to step back and really understand that sometimes we're looking at it totally wrong, okay? And that's why today, 2019, if there's one thing that I want to stress with you guys today, is the fact that I got to give you the bigger picture. Because clinically, once again, we're focusing too much on some minute things and forgetting the big picture. And so the training today is going to get you to expand that process. Ooh, almost lifted off chair. You're going to expand that process to get you to look at everything different. And now, it's not saying that we're not doing awesome. We are doing amazing. 2018 was a ridiculous year. But what separates us, what still separates us from everything, is not our marketing, is not our information talks, is not our WWO, is not our website. It's actually how we think and then how we get that message out there, which number one has to be congruent. But the number one thing that built this today has nothing to do with any of that. It's all about the clinical results. And so when I see some of the thinking going off a little bit, I want to kind of change this a little bit, because I want to make sure that when you look at the lab, you're getting it pictured right. So let's step back here, okay? So as you guys know, I constantly read. I'm constantly looking at things on a regular basis to see, what's actually out there. Well, recently, because we're towards the end of the year, one thing that's really common that you see publicly is people start interviewing centurions because they made it to another year. All right? So here is a really cool research article they did. And they're going through all the centurions, and they interviewed this one on the Today Show. So you can actually go on Today Show and Newsweek and CNN, and you can see this slides, okay? You can see her interview. Why this 104-year-old woman loves drinking Diet Coke. Let me say it again. Why this 104-year-old woman loves drinking Diet Coke. She had found out that when the diet soda came out in the late 60s, early 70s that way, she immediately jumped on the bandwagon, and she contributes her longevity to Diet Coke. Okay? She contributes her longevity to Diet Coke. Now, to give you an example, I actually listened to her whole interview. I read the whole article, what she wrote down. And believe it or not, this wasn't sponsored by Diet Coke. It was just basically interviewing centurions and what they created for longevity. Now, let me give you a big picture. Do you know that every centurion that they interviewed had shitty habits? Had really bad habits? Do you see what I'm saying? Let me say it again. Every centurion had extremely bad habits. Let me say it again. Every centurion had extremely bad habits. This woman drank 2 Diet Cokes every day for the last 40 to 50 years. Now, it's really funny. When I say drinking Diet Coke, 2 of them every day for the next 50 years, every one of us cringe to our core. We do, because of how bad we know those ingredients are. But keep that in mind, okay? So, once again, I started doing a little bit more reading. Here we go. Woman, a woman, for example, has 7 starving kids because she ate the food and didn't want to give it to the kids because she was morbidly obese. All right? Now you're saying, what does this have to do with it? This morbidly obese woman, and actually women, because I have a bunch of articles to link to this, actually extremely unhealthy. Her main food source was McDonald's, and she popped out kids like they were Skittles. Do you see what I'm saying? So we have a centurion that lived to 104, drinking Diet Coke every day. We have a woman that gave birth to 7 kids, once again, and the main food source was McDonald's because that's all she could afford. All right, so her diet wasn't that great, very toxic diet that way. And here we go again. Number 3. Centurions, once again, I'm kind of repeating it that way, drink and eat badly. How did they get away with it? How did they get away with it? Now, I know a bunch of you guys are already starting to formulate saying, well, the food, this. No, hold the phone. See, this is where the concept goes wrong, okay? It's kind of like this. I can honestly tell you, I've had people in their 80s, and actually one guy in his 90s, never get adjusted ever in their life, okay? Let me say again, never get adjusted in their life. How is that possible? How is it possible? Could any of you guys imagine going a year without getting adjusted? I know a lot of you guys would cringe. You'd be like, dang, I'd be sore, I'd be this. And these people are in their 80s and 90s. They're smoking, they're drinking, they're obese, they're doing everything. And they still do things that, once again, that we are just kind of boggled away because none of us would do that on a regular basis because we could just mentally see ourselves falling apart. What's my point? See, the point is this, number 1, and I call this the Samson Fennelly effect. I have to tell a funny story about Samson. Samson is such a meticulous, amazing, detailed thinker. When Samson and Alex are one of the first affiliates that we've ever had, Samson is such a fantastic clinician. That's why Samson is one of our teachers, why Alex is one of our teachers. But he methodically thinks, I mean, so detailed. I love the man. I just love the way he teaches. I love his detail up on stage. I love it this way. But I call this the Samson Fennelly effect, which means see the forest before you see the trees. Because when we used to look at labs, wait, let me see. Oh, the pug's gone. I see Samson there. Okay, there he is. Okay, so there's Samson. Samson, remember, give these guys a thumbs up. Remember, we're sitting at your office, and I kept on saying, step back, Samson. Step back. Step back. Okay? And what I meant by that was the fact that when you get so detailed on a lab and you're just looking at the little thing and about this little pathway and this little pathway, what you are really doing, you're forgetting the major concept that can allow a very obese person to pop out kids like Skittles when she's eating McDonald's every day. You forget the concept that person could smoke for 100 years and still live. You can forget that they can do everything bad for 100 years. And then how we approach looking at a lab is dramatically different. See, I recently had this conversation with Nicole. I recently had this conversation with a bunch of docs, okay? Is the fact that it's like, they said, Doc, this is not a joke. Doc, whenever you look at the lab, you almost always seem to have the answer. You're right. Do you know why I have the answer? It's because of how I approach every single lab. It doesn't matter if it's a stool lab. It doesn't matter if it's actually a hormone lab. It doesn't matter there. Because once again, the big concept sets the stage for everything, okay? So once again, looking too detailed at the forest, at the tree, doesn't give you the whole forest. And that's why, for example, how is it that my beautiful bride could be getting adjusted, taking 10 supplements? Yes, she was on medications and everything like that. So she was on medications and supplements and getting adjusted. So she had everything, and it was kind of funny. And the concept was, why is she still sick? Why at 22 years old? Because remember, it all stemmed from this. I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm just going to make an assumption, a very bad assumption. I think today that if my wife wasn't seeing a good chiropractor, because he could adjust, if she wasn't taking those 10 supplements, if she wasn't on those medications, I don't know if we'd have the concept that we have today. Yes, I was formulating testing and things like that, but I think I'd be no different than functional medicine, which I'm going to show you how functional medicine still fails. It's why when I wrote that article 7 years ago and said, chiropractors, stop calling yourself functional medicine. And anyway, guys, here's what happens. Functional medicine is a medical thing. Jeffrey Bland, a PhD in a medical world, created functional medicine. It's totally incongruent with what we do. Do you understand? But it's a buzzword. So everybody wants to jump on the buzzword. But that buzzword, just like everything else, I'm going to show you how it's going to fail. And I'm going to show you, once again, the concept of how we think, guys, clinically makes us masters compared to everybody out there. Let me say that again. It makes us clinical masters compared to everybody out there. All right? So once again, here's what happens. Always come back to this. Step back. Every lab, step back. Every lab, step back. Now, what's the key? What's the big key? Okay? And actually, Dr. Jeremy did a wonderful job of actually giving the concept of it. I'm going to go in great detail of it so you guys see how I'm always thinking about this and then how you can approach that lab that makes it dramatically different. And then you're going to understand why a woman can smoke every day or drink McDonald's every day and still be fertile. And why, for example, here's what happens. I want you to be honest with me. I can see a lot of you guys on screen, okay? Oh my goodness. Dr. Jordan, it looks like you're in a Christmas card. A good old fireplace behind you. I love it, okay? Okay, do me a favor. I've done this before. Please don't lie to me, okay? Do me a favor. For all you guys on video, please raise your hand if you may have ate, done, or stressed out over the holidays, even though you know you shouldn't have. Please raise your hand. Look around the room. You know what I'm saying? And we're the best at what we do, okay? We're the best at what we do. So the best thing, obviously, to do is teach people not to do that. But here's what happens. There's people that do that every day and still live long, okay? Why? Well, let's go into this because I believe this is a key. This is a key thought that I have to beat into your head, that when I'm watching the doctor chat and I see all labs go up and I see everything go up and I see you guys discuss stuff, which I absolutely love, please do me a favor. Continue that dialogue between all you guys. I'm always watching. I'm always looking at everyone. I see everyone. Guys, I know every post on chat. I know every post on Doctor Chat. I actually, believe it or not, tell you the truth, guys, not a joke. I told you I was a stalker. I know everything you guys post on each one of your pages. I do. Because why? I love to see you guys interact. That's why you see Doc. All of a sudden, 2 seconds later after I share something, you share it. Yeah, because I want to get everybody well known, okay? But here is the clinical key that still gives me the idea to every lab I look at and every single thing that still basis of why Christy today and I have 4 children and why the Wellness Way got so popular in what it's doing because of really one word, and here it is. Homeostasis. Homeostasis. Now, just like when we do our rise and grinds, everybody's looking for the new personal growth and development thing that's going to change their life. And I've always told you, the most sexy word, even though it doesn't get a lot of publicity, is consistency. Because why? People are expecting this new way of doing things. Guess what? You want to be a success, be consistent in anything you do. I'm actually hitting a very high level of success in my 6 priorities. Why? Because every day I'm grinding on those 6 priorities. Every day. Every day. Do you understand? Dr. Sampson's going to see in just a short time how good my consistency at my number 6 is golf soon. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? It's like consistency. Why? Because I'm training on those things every day. Wait, you're training to be a good husband? Every day. You're training to be a good clinician? Every day. My top 6 priorities are consistent. Now, when I approach every lab, it doesn't matter if it's a thyroid. It doesn't matter if it's a stool lab. It doesn't matter what it is. The first thing that always comes to mind is this right here, homeostasis. And I'm going to show you how medically they so got it wrong. They so got it wrong, guys, and they'll never figure it out. They'll never figure it out. That leaves us great opportunity to step in and answer the questions that nobody else has already done. Watch, do me a favor. Watch this. I want everybody to look at their screens. Raise your hand if you have helped a person clinically that no other doctor could. Raise your hand. I guarantee everyone you guys are going to raise their hand. Do you get my point? It's an opportunity to, with all the sick people out there. You wonder why I'm always so excited? Because there's such bad thinking out there that perpetuates patients in the wrong direction. Medical, functional medicine, integrative. Do not worry if there's an integrative or functional medicine doctor that opens 10 clinics down the road. I hope they do. I want 50 functional medicine and integrative in all these clinics in my town. Do you know why? Because they're going to fail. They're going to fail dramatically. You think I'm joking? Me and another doctor, her name is Dr. Brooklyn. You guys don't know her yet. She works for a clinic, a group of clinics in Chicago. They have 14 functional medicine clinics, 14 of them. and they're failing dramatically. A bunch of lawyers got together and decided to create this business that way, and they're billing the crap out of labs, which I think is stupid, okay? That's how they make most of their money, and they don't even do a food test. The doc came up here because she saw the clinical results, she read my book, and here's what happens. They don't even let her adjust. Let me say it again. They don't even let her adjust. How can you remove that? How can you live well if you don't remove that stressor, okay? My point is this. There's such great opportunity. I don't care if there's 10 chiropractors that come within your area. I have 5 within a half a mile of me. 5. Do you understand? Within a half mile. And I think they're all nice people. I actually like them. I actually talk to them. It's just that they don't think like us. Actually, the funny part is 4 of them do standard process supplements. Do you see what I'm saying? See, I want you guys to understand. 2019, 2020, till the day we die, our thinking on this, even what's taught medically, even what's taught in actually I pulled this definition off a major medical website of how they actually view this. So let's go through this. Let's understand homeostasis. That means before you look at any lab, I'm going to show you, for example, how I look at this lab. Because what it's going to do, once you understand this, and then you look at a lab, you can now start to figure out what is the major stress to the body. And here's what happens, guys. That stress, even if you drink Diet Coke, might not be Diet Coke. Even if you smoke, it might not be smoking. Even if you actually eat McDonald's, it may not stress out your body. But see, that's the thing, and the body is constantly leaving clues. Let me say this again. You as a clinician is to constantly listen to the body from an exam process, from what they're saying, and what their labs are showing you. See, the whole idea, I have to change our catchphrase, because we don't guess, we test. Other people are starting to use that because we made it popular, but here's what happens. I want you to think about this. We don't guess, we test. Well, you can test their pathology. It's just that, for example, because how we test, what I'm doing to test is to see if the body is getting into physiology, homeostasis, or not. That's it. That's it. I'm going to show you how people get this wrong. So let's define homeostasis, because actually it's a pretty good definition. A self-regulating process. Let's stop right there. Self-regulating process. That means their gene processes control this. See, people don't want to talk about genes in this way, but your body actually always is genetically programmed for normal. You're normal. Remember that. We're not genetically programmed for disease. And if we have an epigenetic response, it's still to self-regulate. It doesn't matter what the environment is. Let me say it again. The environment will always try to be self-regulating. Always remember that. It's always trying to bring it back to homeostasis regardless of what happens. A self-regulating process by which biological systems, so all the systems in the body, it does not say one. It does not say the gut. It does not say the heart. I'm so sick of people talking about leaky gut. I want to punch somebody, that number one person that talks about leaky gut. You know why? Because a bad stomach will cause leaky gut more than leaky gut exists. See what I'm saying? It's just, this is what functional medicine does. They actually so focus. All we're going to do is take care of the gut. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. Because once again, what if I told you that your gut is bad for you to adapt? You think I'm joking? Right now, I expose my children to chickenpox. Do you understand that their gut has to become acidic, very acidic, to take on a virus? Think about that. It has to become acidic. Oh no, doc, we need our GI to be basic. Guess what? If you're basic and you actually have a virus come in, it's going to kill you. Do you understand? Your skin has to get so acidic to actually kill off that thing. So this whole concept of seeing the pH and seeing the stool test, and then we got to put some things that put a basic in there. No, this whole concept. I literally had this concept with one of our docs the other day. Said, doc, what can I take to alkalize the bladder and things like that? I'm like, what the hell do you care about alkalizing the bladder for? The bladder knows exactly what it's doing. But the concept is we get so detailed in that minutia, and we're looking for that magic herb and that magic, but doc, we got the best herbs, and this herb can do this. Do you understand that you can take any herb you want, even ours, at a clinically high dose, at a great production that way, and your body's going to do whatever it has to do with that, and if it's to make the bladder acidic instead of basic, guess what's going to happen?
If there's a UTI, if there's a candida infection, if there's a anything, guess what happens? You don't want a basic bladder. You know why? Because that infection will perpetuate. Okay? So once again, the thinking, that's the big thing. Here we go. A self-regulating process to which biological systems tend to maintain stability while adjusting to conditions that are optimal for survival. Period. That we can stop right there. Just understand, everything your body does is for one thing, to survive. That's it. Guess what? We got 5 inches of snow. It's freaking 10 degrees out. It's a little bit rainy. Imagine this. If I took the camera and we walked outside, we stood there for 5 minutes. Do me a favor, in the comments, I want everybody to put this down, because when you put it down, it's going to burn in your memory. What happens to my TSH levels if I'm out there for even a minute? What happens to my TSH levels? Brandon already answered it, and he's not even a doc yet. What happens? Type in. What happens? I want to see type in. I want to see you guys type it in. What happens to your TSH levels? Jeremy Maxwell, do not type it in. You are driving. Yes, they go up. They go up. Now, here we go. I'm going to crush this thinking, this whole concept of out of ranges and in the ranges and smaller ranges and all stuff like this is ridiculous. Let me say it again. People say, Doc, TSH should be around 2. What moronic state are you living in? Well, no, Doc, it should be like 1.5 to 3. What are you thinking? That's the totally stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Do you see what I'm saying? You are actually taking, every one of us, for example, our TSH continually has to fluctuate on a constant continuum, and that homeostasis range is large. Even medically, they're bringing down in there. Why? Because they want to try to force this idea and concept of our averages. See, it's really funny. Let me show you something when we get to the next one, but let's keep going. If homeostasis is successful, life continues. I love that. Guys, this was on a medical website. I thought this was amazing. Now, it's really funny. They do mess it up when they talk about how to take care of it. I'll show you this. If unsuccessful, disaster or death ensures. Ooh. Think about that. If me and Brandon walk outside and TSH can't jump up and regulate our body temperature, we're going to die. Do you understand this, guys? I want you to get that concept. If we do not adapt quickly, if homeostasis cannot fluctuate and be maintained, we die instantaneously. That right there is awesome. That right there should freak you guys out and understand how amazing the human body is and what it can do and what it can adapt to. It's why a person can smoke for 100 years. It's why a person can eat McDonald's. It's why a person can be obese and have a ton of kids. And I see sometimes we're always trying to get all those things into range, and then we're kind of frustrated because all of a sudden we got a food test, and now there's 5, but then there was 25 before, and there's 45. And then I watch some clinics that are being dumb and changing the lab because they didn't like the way Immunolabs had their results. And I hope you guys are watching. Okay? Oh, man. I'm an angry elf this morning. All right? But here, because I'm trying to show you guys clinically why we are so dominant, why we can dominate everything here. Because the thinking is so wrong today. That clinically, I sat here this year. I had medical doctors sitting here in the office, following us around, and they're stupid. They're dumb, and they're going to hurt people. You think I'm joking? They're hurting people. This woman, for example, this OB sat there, and she fought with me, and I looked at her, and I actually got ticked. And I'm like, listen, young lady, if you go out there, you're going to create disasters in so many people's lives. Can you imagine that? You're going to create disaster in these people, and they're coming to you for help. And you can't even think beyond what's taught you in a book. Let's go on. Okay. The stability attained is actually a dynamic equilibrium. Get this, dynamic. It's always changing. It's always changing. Our body is continually on the fluctuation of it that way. And like I said, Dr. Jeremy kind of showed you a graph before. I'm going to show you a great graph to give you an idea of it that way. And we're going to put this out there even more. Our graphics team has done a wonderful job with this, in which continuously change occurs, yet relatively uniform conditions prevail. It's all about adapting. It's all about adapting and try to maintain that homeostasis that's consistently going on, okay? It's huge. It's quite a realm that, for example, that our body can do this in so many ways, okay? So now, believe it or not, we're gonna go to studio number 2. So Brandon, let's have over here.
Ready when you are.
All right, ready? Here we go.
Ready?
Go. We are in a different studio, okay? It was that quick. So you guys seen a little bit of this graph that Dr. Jeremy did a great job of talking about one day. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail to it so you guys understand a little bit more. Now, I apologize. I'm going to turn my computer over here so I can see everybody. There we go. So you can see I'm actually just off to the right of my screen. There we go. So here we go. So when I drew this when I was sitting by Dr. Jeremy, just understand, like I said, homeostasis is a wide range. It's a wide range. So as they take TSH and make it narrower and narrower and narrower, I don't know where they get that from. No, I actually do, okay? They're trying to keep this baseline for everybody when it comes down to TSH in any value that way, which makes no biological sense whatsoever because, once again, our body is on a dynamic continuum. Now, don't get me wrong, homeostasis does have a range, and it's all different. Let me say it again. Look at everybody on the screen. Our rate of homeostasis is different per person, okay? So we do know this, that as long as we can stay within that homeostasis, guess what happens? Our body can perform most functions. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, we know this. We know, for example, that the 3 things that knock us out of homeostasis are quite simple. Okay, we know that trauma does. We know that toxins do. And we know what thoughts do. Okay, now this is not a joke. Based on the FAQ, does anybody really know what the FAQ does? I'm looking at Brandon too. Let me see the question. It's not a joke. I'm asking you guys right here on the computer. What does the FAQ do? What does it do? Somebody type it in. Not builds a report per patient. No. What does it do for us clinically? Come on. Nope, doesn't monitor progress. It can, but that's not its main job. When I wrote that thing, it does one thing. It gives us the area of stress. It gives us the area that is stressed out in the body. Do you see what I'm saying? It gives us the area that's stressed, okay? And once again, you know what's really funny? Do you know what you see a lot of on FAQ? Liver and gallbladder. Lo and behold. Do you see what I'm saying? Because inflammation crushes that thing. Inflammation causes so much liver change, causes so much gallbladder change, and everybody is worried about leaky gut. I can stand here clinically and tell you that the liver and gallbladder have created more disease than anything else because your body's immune system and nervous system has to adapt and everything goes through that liver. It has to perpetuate back to the body. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that's why you see liver and gallbladder under so much stress. It's why, let's take a clinical step back. And why do I like apple cider vinegar so much? Because it's great for the stomach, which sets up the liver and gallbladder to work the best. Why do I like coconut oil so best? Because it sets up the liver and gallbladder for the whole body to work good, including the GI. So everybody's so focused on leaky gut and doesn't realize that the gut's not the main stressor. It's why your food allergies constantly change when you're always dealing after the gut, all right? So as long as your body, even with trauma, toxins, and thoughts, can actually stay within homeostasis, dude, you can do anything. Do you understand that? You can eat like crap. You can do everything bad. You can do these things that way. You can actually be obese. And if your body can stay within homeostasis, do you know how many women that worked out, they're skinny, they ate good, that can't have children? Do you know how many? A ton. I've dealt with that my whole life. Christy was actually one of them. Do you see what I'm saying? I dealt with it my whole life. And I sat there and thought, I said, why can't Christy have a baby? It makes no sense. It makes no sense, okay? And so I was going, all right. And then I got the complete picture. I stepped back. I said, get away from the tree and step back. And then I realized that they never took a global picture. The medical doctors, the OB, the gynecologist, the endocrinologist, the chiropractor, they never took the big global picture of what was going on with my wife. So what I do, I just decided to test all function. And then on one lab, it caught my attention. And it wasn't a food test. And it wasn't a stool test. Durang, when you're looking at inflammatory markers, those are important. But it was one hormone test that actually realized that my wife's liver wasn't converting a hormone, and now her 4-hydroxyestrone and estradiol were skyrocket high, and it doesn't matter what she ate, what supplements she took, what actually she got adjusted. Her body wasn't adapting to that hormonal change, and what I was doing, I apologize, let me rephrase that. My wife's body was adapting to that hormonal change, and it was creating endometriosis, it was creating endomyosis, it was creating a really bad uterus. For what purpose? For her to survive. Remember, here's what happens. When your body cannot adapt in this realm, even if you have trauma toxins and thoughts, it starts moving into adaptive physiology. This would be like things going high, and this would be things going low. So let's say all of a sudden a hormone level went high, it goes to adaptive physiology. Let's say it goes low, it goes to adaptive physiology. Remember, if I walk outside, now let's go back. Let's go back to Studio One, Brandon. I'm getting pretty technical. I have two nice things here, so it's kind of cool. Okay, so let's go back here. And number 3, okay, let's look at this. So here's I pulled off the same medical website. So here we go. The control of body temperature. So let's use the example of we walk outside, me and Brandon walk outside, and all of a sudden, guess what happens? We are clinically now throw ourselves into a state of stress. Think about this. Always remember this thing. The body does not make mistakes. We do. Let me say that again. When I approach a lab, I always have the mindset that the body makes mistakes. And here's what people freak out about. You're telling me my child got cancer and that was on purpose? Yes, because if your child did not get cancer, you would have died already. Let me say it again. If the child would not have cancer, he had already been dead. So thank God he got cancer. Do you understand a disease process is just long-term adaptive physiology for it to survive? Let me give you an example. So we walk outside, Brandon and I, just like this. Our body has to adapt to the new stressor, which is the body change. Now, there's a certain threshold that our body can handle. Now, if I stay out there long enough, our body would start to bring in all of the core blood and bring it to my core, and we'd lose it in our fingers and toes. If we stayed out there long enough, our body would adapt and it would kill these off. Let me say it off. It would kill them off. Do you know why it would kill them off? So we don't end up with a major infection and disease and end up dying from a major infection. Because gangrene is actually pretty easy to die from. So our body would rather kill off that tissue than us to get infected and leave it to bacteria and viruses for us to die. But what do we think about? Think about this. Diabetics do the same thing. They put their body in adaptive physiology to pull the core towards the vital organs, push the sugar away from our body to our extremities, and then the tissues die. Was that smart? Yes. Yes, it was. It was adapting to what? To your sassiness. Okay? So understand. Now watch. Here's where they get it wrong. In control of body temperature in humans is a good example of homeostasis in the biological system. Remember this, guys. We're a system. We're not just the GI. We're not just the cardiovascular system. We're not just the nervous system. We are consistently a system, always adapting. And you're going to find out that your best clinicians can always find out the organ that can't keep up with the adaptation. Do you see what I'm saying? You're going to be the clinician. See what I'm saying? So if you're so focused on foods and stool, which is by far the easiest way to start, but all of you guys have done this before. How many of you guys have done this? Please raise your hand. How many of you guys have actually run a food test and had somebody just avoid their foods and they lost 20 pounds? How many of you guys have done that? How many of you guys have run a food test on an obese woman and she avoided them and she lost nothing? Do you get my point? Because that wasn't the main stress to her system. But doc, she was inflamed like crazy. There's no doubt. I didn't say that was a good thing. But the obese woman that had 7 kids also ate McDonald's every day. Do you know what I'm saying? How many guys have done this? See, so the idea concept is constantly looking for the organ that can't adapt. And the one that gives out first is the weakest link. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, in humans, normal body temperature fluctuates around 98.6. Okay, let me say this again. Do me a favor. You want to see how messed up the public's thinking is? You want to see how messed up their public thinking is? Ask them one question. I do this all the time. Miss Jones, what's our normal temperature? What did they all say? It's 98.6. No, it's not. Do you really think me and Dr. Sampson and Dr. Jeremy and Dr. Cynthia and Dr. Greg and Dr. Brenda and Dr. Beth, do you all think that our temperatures are 98.6? Do you understand that my wife's base temperature is 98.2? Do you see what I'm saying? And mine runs around 98.9? There's almost a degree fluctuation in this. But what happens is, in all things medicine, we have to actually create a group of people that are the same so we can clinically trial them the same so we can give them medication that's what? The same. And there's nobody that's the same. So therefore I say, no, Miss Jones, that's not normal. That's the average of a group of people. Let me say it again. That's the average. And they bring these ranges down, and our mental mindset of parents is, my child is 99.1. They're not normal. We have to make them normal with aspirin and Tylenol and Motrin. That's the thinking. Do you understand this? I actually had a doc, which will stay nameless, and our doc said this, and they've been with us for a couple years. I almost jumped through the phone. They said, Doc, I have a patient that has a high fever. What can I bring them herbally to bring it down? I wanted to give them an herbal colonic, okay? Not the patient with the fever, the doctor, okay? I'm like, what do you mean you're gonna bring it down? He's like, well, the parents are scared. Teach the body how to adapt to a fever. Do you see what I'm saying? Help the body adapt to that process. That's what you're supposed to do. And as it does that, it makes it stronger. Do you understand this? Brandon, go back here. Go back here. This is really cool, guys. You go back here. Okay, back to the screen. Guys, here's the coolest thing ever. You want to know what's kind of cool? They found this. They found that as you challenge your immune system, as you challenge your body through infections and strength and keeping stuff, people's homeostatic ranges actually get larger. They increase. Think about that. The more that we challenge our body, Doc, why did you actually get your child exposed to chickenpox? For the 3rd time for my 5-year-old and for the 5th time for my 9-year-old. Because when we challenge their body, their homeostatic balance increases. Think about that. So all these people that are trying to avoid and keep their places clean and do all these things and actually trying to avoid their kids and live in a bubble so they don't get attacked by infections and stuff like that are making their own ranges smaller. So now when 99.1 is going to be devastating to a kid that has never been challenged and increased their homeostatic adaptation. That right there is worth $1 million right there. That's why, for example, when we actually start to challenge the body and help it adapt, homeostasis becomes bigger. It's why at 44, I can actually go 100 miles an hour more than I could before. Because I've consistently learned how to put the immune system in a state of high adaptation. Actually, it's not a joke. I'll show you guys how you can do it, okay? And that's the coolest part. Getting adjusted increases your adaptive response. It really does. but also taking certain things does too. It's why there's actually things that actually contribute to longevity. Longevity is nothing more than you learn to adapt to your environment for a long period of time. I just defined longevity. That's all it is. And the more that you challenge your system, the longer you can adapt. And that's the coolest part. Challenging your system creates a huger process of homeostasis. Okay? Now, okay, here's where they get it wrong. Here's where they totally get it wrong here. But various factors can affect this value, including exposure, that's okay, hormones, metabolic rate, and disease. Well, they're totally wrong now. They're looking internally for why the body's adapting, and they're saying, well, it's the things that happen in here. They're already downstream. They haven't even looked upstream to what even leads to hormonal changes. You guys know this. Hormones can never be primary, ever. Ever, ever, ever. They're always responding. They're called messengers for a reason, okay? Metabolic rate, that's liver function. You know what I'm saying? Downstream, and disease. What they haven't realized, Brandon, back to studio number 2. Okay, hold on. Back to studio number 2. Sorry guys, I'm getting all pumped up, my thing's falling. Back to studio number 2. But they don't realize, they think what actually is causing the body's fluctuation, that homeostasis, is disease. No, it's not. Your body's pushing it out of homeostasis to adapt. And if you stay out here long enough, you move into adaptive physiology, which is called pathology. Do you understand? When you're in school, you learn pathophysiology. It really should be physiopathology, okay? Because why? The physiology actually adapts to get pathology so we can survive. So they think, well, this is what throws off homeostasis. No, it doesn't. Disease does not throw off homeostasis. Disease actually is a creation because of homeostasis. It's trying to adapt. Because if you didn't produce this disease on either side, the end result is what? Death. Death. That's it. Pathology is a result of your body trying to survive. I taught Chuck Majors that, and he put that in the Cancer Killer book, which I will say this directly, Brandon, back here. The Cancer Killer book is 3/4 the stuff that I taught him. You're saying? And people will confirm that big time that know Chuck Majors, including his wife, including people that actually even wrote the book. Because when I told Chuck, the reason why you have cancer is because you're trying to survive, it gave him a different perspective on life. Just understand, in our constant strive on trying to get back to homeostasis is what drives you away from the pathological state. It's why you guys have had diseases reverse. You're putting that body back into homeostasis long enough to reverse that pathological adaptation. Let me say it again. You want to reverse disease? Find out the stressed out organs, put them back into adaptive physiology. Put them back into adaptive physiology, put them back into homeostasis, and work your way backwards. And guess what happens? Those disease processes start to go back to normal tissue. It has been shown thousands and thousands of times, even medical research, that cancer cells can turn back to normal cells. Let me say it again. They don't even die off. They convert back to normal tissue. It's been well documented, but that destroys the medical disease pathology method, the model that makes them trillions per year. We are sitting on a gold mine, guys. And I don't mean just as far as practice success. I mean mental answers for people that are suffering and dying out there. And who's going to do it? Functional medicine? Nope. They are so clueless on their principles. You say, Doc, how can you say it? For you guys that don't know me that terribly well, I was at the start of a lot of those things. I was a contributor to a lot of those things until I realized that their thinking was so wrong and I couldn't attach my name to it, okay? And that's what's frustrating to me today. That's why I won't let the Wellness Way go down this path, all right? Now, here we go. The body's temperature regulation is controlled by a region of the brain called the hypothalamus. Once again, they come back now to true stuff. Feedback about the body's temperature is carried out through the bloodstream and brain and results in compensatory adjustments in breathing rate, levels of sugar, metabolic rate. Guys, here's what happens. When your body's in homeostasis, you can have a ton of symptoms. When your body's in adaptive physiology, you can have a ton of symptoms. Stop thinking that symptoms are bad. Symptoms are nothing more than a clue that, guess what? As a clinician, our job is to, I gotta get here soon. I'm gonna pump. Our job as a clinician is to listen. Let me say it again. Write this down, guys. Burn this in your head. Our job is to listen, not as an empathetic doctor. It's to listen to what the physiology is doing to respond. You guys have all heard the stories. Greg says, Dr. Patrick's sitting there with his computer, he's taking notes. I'm not taking notes based on their emotional bullcrap. I'm not. I'm not listening to their suffering. I'm listening to their physiology. Because their body will say, well, doc, I had a runny nose here, and my cycle was this, and this, and this. And I don't care what I'm trying to do with them. I'm trying to get the concept is what is the body doing to adapt? And then my questions coming back to them is digging and digging and digging to see where they're stressing out their body. Let me say it again. I'm digging and I'm digging to figure out where they're stressing out their body. And I can honestly tell you, I can say this, and you guys have heard me say this again. I still think women clinically are destroying their body through right here. Their thought processes. And guys, it's sugar. You know what I'm saying? Until somebody proves me wrong, I don't care. I'm all about learning, but I can tell you just from clinical experience because that's all I focus on. See, people think, like I said, really good, massive concept. They say, listen, doc, you actually, have really become a big speaker, part of the Wellness Way that way. Guys, you understand this. It would floor you how many labs I look at per week. It'd floor you. It's just that we have other docs that go through them in great detail, trying to get you the general concept that way, but I'm constantly going through labs. I spent this morning going through a lab of a guy, for example, who had a massive tumor growing into his kidney, and he was peeing blood every day. This is what I do all the time. And guess what happens? And I actually figured out what's going on. And he's over in Mayo Clinic right now. And they wanted to remove his whole kidney, and they're not going to remove his kidney now. They're going to remove the tumor, and that's it. God bless. We have great medical technology. You can do it. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's fine. But we had to stop the bleeding. But the idea is this. As we know, the body's going to adapt, and that adaptation is going to result in that same kidney tumor if nothing changes. And I already found out why it was changing, okay? Here we go. Heat loss in humans is aided by a reduction in ability. So once again, the body's fluctuating. Too high, too low, it adapts, okay? Changes skin. See, it does all these things. The range between high and low body temperatures level out at a homeostatic plateau. There's a certain range of your homeostasis. And the more that you challenge your body and give your body to adapt, guess what happens? You now increase your homeostasis that it can handle without even moving in adaptive physiology. And that's why a person that never gets a cold and their parents give them vaccines and all stuff like this, and they get a cold that lasts for 2 weeks, yet you and I get it, and within a day or two, it's gone. Because our body can adapt to homeostasis so much quicker. That's the key. See, the key is not removing all the stressors from the body, because there's stressors that are there constantly. It's constantly trying to see labs and seeing where the stressors are coming from. So now you know what area to support in its regeneration and its building and its adaptation, and trying to get the patient's habits away from stressing those areas out. And yes, it might be smoking. And yes, it might be McDonald's. And yes, it might be getting adjusted. And yes, it might be actually all those things that we focus on. But we can't get so linear in our thinking that we think only foods or only bacteria or only these things, because we're missing so many things clinically. And then we're trying to create this aspect of bringing the ranges in smaller, which make no clinical sense. And let me show you why. Here's a clinical application. Holy crap, Brennan. It's already 55 minutes. Do you guys want me to stop? You guys want me to keep going? Go. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. So now, clinical application. So this was sent to me by Dr. Stacy Wiley. As you're going to know Dr. Stacy Wiley, I know Dr. Stacy longer than anybody in the whole Wellness Way. What an amazing woman. She's a blessing. She's awesome. I love her dearly. So Stacy and I were going over this lab last week. And by the time I was done, she even said this. You can text her and ask her. She's like, Doc, I just got to learn to think like you. Now, this is all I had. and I actually told Stacy what was going on with the patient. How is that possible? Do me a favor, look at this lab. It's just a small thyroid lab, which you know now that, guess what? Everything else is secondary. This is probably tertiary. But I read to Stacy what was going on with her, what her weight was like, what her emotions were like, what her hormones were like. Now you say, how? Because here's what happens. When I first take a look at this lab, all I think about, in any lab you guys send me, is homeostasis. Homeostasis. The body knows exactly what it's doing. Do you see what I'm saying? Exactly what it's doing. In every single way, it knows exactly what it's doing. All right? So now, here we go. DHEA was actually tanked. Okay? Cortisol was tanked. Now, do me a favor. Put in the description, put in there, just from those two being tanked, what does that give you an idea of? What's the idea? Yeah, it's trying to adapt to stress, period. Well, Doc, no. Start with the big picture. Do the Samson Fenley. Come on, Samson, give me the whole wide like this. Samson Fenley, that's right. Whole big picture. We'll get there. We'll get to the narrow scope. That's our protocol, but we'll get there. All right, here we go. Big scope, forest before the trees. So I'm sitting there going, chronic stress. All right, and the body's trying to adapt to its chronic stress. All right, so then before I even did anything else, I said, Stacy, here's what happens. Guys, think about this. Here's what happens. Patients give us one shot. Let me say it again. Patients give us one shot. This woman has been drugged, surgery, ripped apart, done stuff like this for a lot of years. And they come into Stacy and they give her one shot. You better make it a three-pointer. Heck, you better make it a half-court shot because you got one shot at this. Now, what I told Stacy, I said, listen, before we go any farther, you better set your boundaries very strong. Let me say it again. Boundaries exist in my personal life, in my professional life, in every priority that I have. So listen, Miss Jones, listen. Your body is screaming. Your body is screaming. It's been under stress for a long time. What do you think that patient said? Oh, yes, yeah, but I got all these things going on. It's a psychological fact that if you don't let them know that, what's going to happen is they're expecting, don't want to pay for it. They want one herb and one adjustment, and they want it for free. You think I'm joking? I've been in practice for 20 years. It's not going to change. Stop complaining about it. Let me say it again. Stop complaining about it. The reason why you're complaining about it is because you haven't given them the big picture for them to actually take those steps forwards. And if they don't take their steps forward, who cares? Let me say it again. You are not a good clinician by being empathetic for their stupid situation and trying to mold to them. You're actually doing a disservice by doing that. If they don't want what you have, I don't care what their situation is. I don't care, for example, if they don't have enough money. I don't care if they just got a divorce. I don't care what their excuse is. Because you know why? The minute something doesn't go the way that you told them, they're going to hang you with a noose. Do you see what I'm saying? So all of you guys that want to be the nice guy to your patients, you wonder why you're failing. I hope that kicks some of you guys in the balls. You want to be the nice guy, and the nice guy doesn't get you crap. You understand? You know who's a nice woman? The OB that was sitting here, and it's going to be paid for by insurance like crazy, and they're going to poison that person, and she's going to hurt people. And she's going to think she's doing that out of the kindness of her heart. You know what's happened? As you guys know, my wife's best friend, Jeanette Bantamoy, okay? Edward, her husband, is a stockholder and owner of Purveya that has 70 medical clinics across the country, and he was over at our house during Christmas Eve. And you know what he told me his biggest frustration of 2019 was? Guess what it was? His biggest frustration is the negotiations they have to do in January to make sure that all the insurance companies, they want to pay him less, and they have to negotiate a lower fee and restructure their company so they can survive. That's his biggest concern. Not sick people. This was just said at my house on Christmas Eve. That's the world they live in. Because why? because they've been catered to that mindset. If you don't tell this woman that, listen, you're the dumbass that has done so many things for so long, and guess what? We will work in partnership, but if you still stressed out, cool. I got things to help you adapt, but you're responsible for it. You're not being empathetic. You're being a jerk if you actually are nice to this person. Let me say it again. You are not being empathetic by being a nice person. Somebody needs to tell them the truth. Is it going to be you? Or are you going to complain to me about patients not listening to you? See, sometimes people say, Doc, sometimes you're a jerk. Yes. And who has been more successful, you or I? Remember, this is about us, guys. See, some of the things that you guys complained about 2018, it was your fault. I don't have those problems. Do you see what I'm saying? Why? Because if you don't give this person the big concept that they've been crapping on your body like crazy, you're setting yourself up for failure. And then you're going to be mad at them, and it's really you. Okay? Give them that big concept. Now, chronically. Now, here's the cool part is this. Guess what happens? TSH is fine. 3.2. Oh, wait, Doc, hold the phone. It's not by 2.0. And the ranges, we're going to do a range from 1.5 to 2.5. So it's not in a functional range. If I hear such stupid stuff like that, thank you, Brandon. I'm not being dramatic. I'm sick of hearing this stupid stuff. There is no such thing as functional ranges. See, that's a functional medicine thinking. They're just trying to make it lower so they can actually be different than medicine. And so therefore they can actually do blood chemistry analysis and those ranges are smaller. And so now I can give you 10 supplements for each blood work that's off. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't work. How many times have you guys given support to the thyroid and they never lost weight? Please raise your hand, every one of you guys, because I've talked to every one of you guys. See, it's wrong. I don't care that's at 3.2. Now, guess what? The body's adapting. Well, of course it's adapting. Somebody tell me why TSH is at 3.2. Somebody put it in this thing. Oh, Brenda, that was a cheap answer. Now we got to get a little bit more clinical survival. See, now you guys are going to give me big concept answers. No. Now we're going to get to the Samson. We're going to call it, remember, guys, we call it the Samson, okay? We're going to get to the detail. Somebody tell me why TSH was elevated. It's basic biochemistry, and you guys miss this all the time because you're so worried about getting it to 2.0. Oh, Jacques. Oh, there we go. Dr. Jeremy. Dr. Jeremy hit it perfectly. Guys, the basic biochemistry. Thyroid adrenals, okay? They have their homeostatic range. If the adrenals go down, what has to compensate for it? The thyroid. TSH has to skyrocket. It has to go up. It has to go up. Let me say it again. You know what I think? This person's T3 levels are normal, T4 levels are normal. No, they're not. They should be higher. They should be out of range. They should be elevated. You wonder why this woman, I said, Stacy, this woman has no energy, does she? Nope. She's starting to gain weight, right? Yep. But no, her thyroid is normal. No, it's not. Her brain is saying, we got to do more, we got to do more, we got to do more because our adrenals are so down. Think about that. And you guys want to try to make that range smaller to get that. If this woman's TSH is at 2.0, she's screwed. I want that TSH more like 7 right now. Do you see what I'm saying? Why? So it can adapt. She can't adapt. I bet you at one time it was at 7, and now it can't keep up anymore. See, it's how you look at this lab. It's how we think about this lab. It's how we actually see this thing. But if you think you're going to try to get that TSH down to 2, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? The only way you're going to get that thing down into its range is actually by getting that adrenals back to normal. Okay? But here's what happens. We still haven't got it that way. Now, guess what happened? So we see that the antibodies are pretty good. Okay? Now, here's a big clue. Reverse T3 was getting up there. Okay? Once again, was getting up there. That's a clue. But the thyroid binding globulin was extremely low. It was actually tanked, okay? It was tanked. what's happening? This woman, not a joke, it kind of blew Stacy's mind because she told me nothing about it. This woman has fatty liver disease. And guess what? Dr. Stacy is like, how did you know that? I didn't even tell you. Well, because once again, here's what happens. Her FAQ is going to be high with liver and gallbladder, all right? Now, thyroid binding globulin, for example, is an automatic thing produced by a liver because it needs to do what? All hormones have to have clinical proteins attached to it to transport it. The T4 and T3 free are microfractions, 0.2 and 0.3% of the full hormone out there, which is readily used so quickly anyways that way. So you wonder why her T4 and T3 levels are not more elevated? Is because there's no binding globulin to circulate this. This is a long-time liver issue. And now guess what? She can't metabolize crap. If she can't metabolize things in her liver, she can't metabolize human fat to water soluble, so she's gonna gain weight. She can't convert her hormones. Do you see what I'm saying? All these things happen. And then what happens is this. One kind of cool, I said, listen, I'll bet you she has puffy hands and puffy feet. Yep. I'll bet you, for example, she started to get a tire around the waist. Yep. I'll bet you, and when she eats, she actually bloats over everything, even though she's avoiding her food allergies and she still bloats after she eats. Dr. Stacy says, yep. Because why? Because you got to look at the forest before you look at the trees. And even though I have an incomplete view of their labs, I still have a greater picture of any doctor in the world. Because why? Because I know the body's trying to achieve homeostasis. And if it's not, the body's going to go into adaptive physiology to survive. It's storing fat and having puffy feet and actually having a belly fat and doing all these things is actually made so she can survive, because if she can't survive, she dies. Do you follow me? Do you get it? See, that's the biggest key. As when you look at a lab, see, I agree. I want more labs on her so I can now look at the forest. Do you see what I'm saying? So I can now find the stressors. There is no doubt. But guess what happens? This woman, I told Stacy what to do right away to make some clinical change on her quickly. No joke. And we didn't even get food and stool yet, which are apparent for her not to keep on destroying the liver. But guess what happens? If we don't change that fatty liver disease, we can even avoid food allergies, and it's going to take a long damn time. This woman, for example, has to get the detox now. This woman, for example, this woman would actually be good for fasting, even though I don't want her to destroy her hormones, but it'd still be good for her. See, that's the clinical aptitude that we at Wellness Way docs have to have. So when we look at things as far as like all these different things, we're thinking like functional medicine, stop. It doesn't work because they're not looking at homeostasis. They say they are. They say all the right things. And do me a favor, guys. I love this. People always say, even functional medicine, we go after the cause. No, you don't. There's no such thing. Let me say that again. There is no such thing as a cause. Does anybody here, I'm going to look at the screen right now. Does anybody here ever see their patient go through one stressor? No. They have 5 and 6 different stressors that they have on a constant basis. 5 and 6. This whole concept of I'm going to adjust them and it's going to change everything. I'm going to give them an herb and it's going to change everything. I'm going to give them a detox and change everything. If we don't teach these patients, it's a constant aspect of them, not us, evaluating their stressors and find out what system is stressed out the most. And it can change. Let me say it again. It can change. I don't know why some people are so frustrated that they do a food test and one day it has 10 and the next day it has 40 and 3 months from later it has 5 and stuff like that. That's wrong thinking. It's okay if it does that. It's okay. It gives you great clues to how the body's adapting. It gives you great clues. Do you understand this, guys? If you have a GI infection, guess what happens? Your food test will change daily. Let me say it again. If you have a GI infection, your food test will change daily. Do you know why? The acidity by nature is going to make those gap junctions open up. so the immune system can come this way from the blood into the GI. It has to. So this whole concept that we're going to build this body and it's going to stay and stuff like that is ludicrous thinking. Do you understand? It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. It makes no clinical sense. That's how functional medicine thinks. That's how everything thinks. And that's why they're wrong, and that's why we are right. And how can we say that we are right? Because clinically, there's a reason why people travel all over the world to see you. It's because you already give them a different concept that nobody has. That's what's going to take us from 2019 to... I've said the same things, guys, for 20 years. I'm not joking about that. I'm making that more public because why? Everybody's getting worse. But doc, there's more Whole Foods and more almond milks. Yes, but there's more people perpetuating dumb stuff. If I see another testosterone supplement out there, I'm going to puke. Because there is no such thing. Do you see what I'm saying? It's such a ridiculous concept, it drives me nuts. And guess what? And I'm gonna be a jerk about it in a good way. I'm gonna communicate it to way to where I'm showing that all those people are doing dumb things because what happens is this, they're selling a product. It's why, for example, I'm so strong against that because it's misleading. Sure, could we sell millions more? Sure. You know what's really funny? It becomes difficult that when your own profession, not us, your own profession lives in a world is so taking themselves out of the realm of looking at the body. They talk about function, they talk about homeostasis, and all they do is pound spines every day. I'm sorry, that's disgusting for the chiropractic profession. It was never meant that way. Guys, guess what? I'm teaching you what BJ put out a long time ago. The chiropractic profession has the answers. You think I'm joking? You asked Nicole. I had a great conversation with her because Nicole is a ninja. I had to sit her down and say, Nicole, nurse practitioner school is messing with you. Do you know why? Because she started to get a little mechanistic and I started to see her something list go up. Not a joke. And Nicole has a heart of gold and wants to help everybody. But even nurse practitioner schools mess her up. I said, forget all that. I actually looked at her and said, Nicole, what made you popular for what you're doing? She goes, getting people back to homeostasis. I said, then stop that other thinking because it doesn't work. It works if you're in a crisis. It works if you're going to die. God bless we have that. God bless that we have steroids so I didn't die from an egg allergy. God bless that we have things that we don't die. But that's the only thinking that should perpetuate that profession. That's not us. Okay? Now. Oh, so let's go here. Sorry. I can go on for hours. We'll end on this, but I'll show you through. So let's go over here. And then we'll be all done. Okay. So let's go to here. So believe it or not, it's kind of cool. Okay? Trauma. How do we teach our body to adapt? We get adjusted and we do spinal correction. Guys, you have to start putting the body's physiology, its posture and stuff back. That's why I like vibe plates. That's why I like spinal correction. Dr. Jason and Dr. Seth. Dr. Seth is a freaking genius at it. See what I'm saying? It's why we're going to have it at our next seminar. Don't forget about spinal correction. We're getting so into labs, and we're going so in this. Guys, your x-ray's a lab. How many of you guys' x-rays can I come to your office and look at a straight curve and start to get it back? Do you see what I'm saying? We need to start actually training the body to start get back to its normal adaptation that way. Okay? Toxins. Remember, correcting deficiencies and removing bad stuff. And that includes food allergies, bacteria, also deficiencies. In 2 weeks, I'm going to teach you how we're so mineral deficient. Let me say, I teach Zoom in 2 weeks, I think it is. I'm going to teach you guys how we're so mineral deficient, that's ridiculous, okay? And I'm going to teach you some of the things that you can do clinically to pick up that labs can't even pick up, okay? Thoughts, okay? No joke. Hate to say this. You understand that that's why California Poppy and stuff like that and Kava and CBD are so well sold because those help you adapt. Now, let's come back here. So if you look at here at thoughts, you got Kava, you got California Poppy. I will say this. California Poppy is still my favorite out of them. It is. I know a lot of people like Kava. I still think California Poppy dominates. CBD. Now, toxins. Schisandra. Schisandra. Let me say it again. Schisandra. Let me say it again. Schisandra. It's why it's known as the longevity herb. Do you understand that the 3 top herbs in actually Chinese medicine, before they knew everything, Schisandra is number 3? Okay? How does your immune system adapt to it? Medicinal mushrooms. Okay? Think about this. We actually just worked with an amazing company. We're going to have our own organic, top-notch brand, better than my community, better than, once again, we started out, remember, I started with Standard Process products, and we made them better. We started out with my community and, Host Defense, and we have them better. Okay? It's been amazing. You got to wait to see our new line of medicinal mushrooms coming out. And you guys know I've been obsessed with them since I've been in clinical practice. Why? Because they are the greatest immune adaptogens on the planet. Let me say it again. Medicinal mushrooms are the greatest immune adaptogens on the planet that way. What else? Albizia. Albizia helps us adapt to the sassiness. If we trigger our immune system, Albizia helps us adapt to it. Now, what helps us adapt to sugar intake? What helps? Brandon, somebody write it down. Someone put it in there. What helps us adapt to sugar? Come on, what else adapt to sugar? Come on. There we go. Gymnema. How does Gymnema work? Gymnema actually helps you reduce the absorption of sugar in the small and large intestine, but also does what? Helps you create more beta cells insulin. But guess what happens? There's another product that I'm developing for us, because guess what? Sugar absorption happens more than just in the small and large intestine. It also happens in the stomach. It also absorbs in the stomach. And we're going to have our own organic brand of fenugreek. Organic brand of fenugreek. Let me tell you this. Fenugreek, Gymnema help massively reduce the absorption of sugars in the mouth, in the stomach, and Gymnema in the small intestine and large intestine. So I actually am creating an organic fenugreek pill that we can hold in our mouth, put in our stomach. It'll sit there for 12 hours. So now when people eat sugar, we'll slow that absorption down. Then if you take the liquid version to get in the intestinal tract really quickly, you'll reduce your sugar absorption like crazy. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? Now, the best overall adaptogen is still ashwagandha. Still ashwagandha. Helps our adrenals adapt to every stressor. Immune, neurological, fatty liver, everything. It does the best. That's why ashwagandha is so well known. So that's why, but once again, here's what happens. Let me show you something how you fail. Let me show you how functional medicine fails. If all you do is constantly give those, and you're not taking time to address those, you have 3 to 6 months. And then that stress will overtake that organ system and you're screwed. It's why functional medicine fails. It's why functional medicine initially gets some results. Remember, they can give all this stuff. You don't need to do it. But guys, you know this. You don't get adjusted. Your body has to adapt to that stressor. You know what I'm saying? If you have toxins and deficiencies, your body has to adapt. You see what I'm saying? See, so it's really funny. Most functional medicine, why it's so popular today and why it's losing its popularity is because people got away from some drugs for a short time. Functional medicine is limited. And they're wrong. And their tree, they say we go after the root cause. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't go after the root cause. They don't even know what the root cause is because there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a root cause, guys. Don't use that terminology. That's a functional medicine. Because you know why? Because the body is constantly has things that bombard it. Here, watch this. You know what's interesting? There's a PubMed article. There's a PubMed article, and let me pull it up and I'll show it on the screen. Give me 2 seconds here. Give me 2 seconds here. Yeah, come back here. Okay, guys, I'm going to share my screen here. Hold a second here. Guys, can you see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Brandon, can you see my screen?
I see it.
Okay. Look at this. Effects on seasonal changes and the transition between subclinical hypothyroidism and euthyroid. Guys, let me take this off so I can see everybody. Guys, look at me. Take a look at me. Do you understand just by living in the Midwest, your TSH levels increase? Let me say this. Just by living in the Midwest, because of the conditions for the course of 3 to 6 months, if you live in Montana, if you live anywhere above, basically Missouri, by nature, your TSH levels increase, so your body adapts to just the environment here. It could be 3.5, could be the normal during the winter. During the summer, they find out that it drops sometimes the 1 to 0.5. Because why? Because environmentally, we do a lot differently based on where we live. So you're telling me, if I live in Florida and I live in Green Bay, our TSH levels are going to be in some functional range that actually perpetuates that we're going to try to make it in that and don't really realize that our body's adapting even to the environment where we live. The pressure changes affect it. There's so much clinical data on there, it's ridiculous. Guys, it's kind of cool. This is something that we put together a while ago, but it means so much. Here's what happens. You want to build the biggest practice on the planet. The biggest practice on the planet. Focus on your social media, your Wellness Way outreach, and your inflammation talks, and give these concepts to everybody across the world. And people will literally be reaching out. Even yesterday, even today, I've already have messages about all the sick people across the world looking for help. It's not that they don't have availability to medical care. It's not that they don't have availability to functional medicine care. It's just that it's a dead end. It's a dead end for them, and it's a dead end for our society of what's happening. Now, you can do that, but I know. Do you understand? Everybody on this call has a greater calling than social media, Wellness Way outreach, and inflammation talks. You're telling me that your priorities can't go by an office? You're telling me, for example, I know all of you guys. You guys have so much to give. It's just that I'm going to ask you for you. I will still continue to grind every day on my 6 priorities. You ask my wife. She is the happiest she has ever been. You ask my kids. They're the happiest they've ever been. You ask me about my faith. I'm the strongest I've ever been. You ask the Wellness Way. My Brandon even says, as my uncle, I constantly see you getting better. He's 25 years old. It gives me great confidence that people see this on a daily basis. Do you understand? Because why? Because I take my priorities so very seriously because you're one of my priorities. It's why on New Year's Day, I had to share something that actually has been on my heart for a while because I care about you guys deeply. And when you guys are working on your 6 priorities and not wasting time, time's the only thing we can't get back, guys. I kid you not. Believe it or not, we're all older than we were yesterday. We can't go back. We can make more money. You can get new friends. You can do all the things, but the one thing we can't get back is time. I'm asking you in 2019, write down your priorities and work on them every day. Do me a favor. Close your eyes right now. I'll do it with you. Close your eyes. Imagine your top 6 priorities. Imagine all of them. It could be I know Samson has Alex as one of his priorities. I know Samson has one of his babies as his priorities. I know he has the Wellness Way. I know Dr. Zach has his girlfriend Jessie as priority. I know Dr. Jeremy has his wife and kids and things that I know Dr. Beth has her new baby. I know we have all these priorities. Imagine every 6 of your priorities, or 7 or 4, how far your priority list can be, is going to be better 1 year from now. It's going to be better 1 year from now. Okay, everybody open up their eyes. Look at all the smiles. Do you understand? If you knew that every area of your life that you care about was better 1 year from now, how can you not be excited every damn day? Every damn day I'm excited. Because you know why? You say, Doc, you're telling me nothing goes wrong? There's stressors constantly, just like every environment. But here's what happens. My days are not dictated by my environment. It's dictated by my priorities. My time is not dictated by my day a week. It's dictated by my priorities. And guess what happens? That's why I could go beyond the center and insert myself and hire people and put it around. You may love to write. Become a writer. We'll help you. We have it so set up for you. You may want to love, and Brandon loves social media marketing. Guess what happens? Run with him. You may actually want to be on the website. Great. You may want to do podcasts. Great. You may want to be a speaker like me and Jason. Great, great, great. I will help you get there because one of my priorities is you guys. Is you guys. Because when everybody else is wasting time and wishing that they got somewhere someday, I'm working on my 6 priorities, and mine is my faith in God, myself, my beautiful bride, my 4 wonderful kids, my wellness way, and golf. And guess what? I will grind every day. I want to be so consistent for you guys that I'm boring. But you know something? I'd rather be that boring man that you can depend on all the time than the most exciting, inconsistent jerk-off that exists out today. And I will continue. 2019 is going to be the greatest year ever. And guess what happens? Even if I die. If I die, the people are in place. The people are in place like Dr. Zach, like Dr. Jason, like Dr. Jeremy, like Dr. Sampson, like Dr. Greg, like everybody that I put in place for this company because we can't do anything without other great people. And you guys are that great people. But I know a lot of you guys want more, but you got to get your priorities right and work on them every day. That's what I do. And you want to be and get to the level you want to get to. Yours may be different than mine, and that's okay. I'm just sharing mine on a regular basis so I can be the most consistent, boring person you know. Because you know why? I've had people say, Doc, you don't do much. I'm like, really? That's because you don't know me. You guys have an awesome 2018. I love all you guys dearly. Hope you guys watch this training over and over and over again. You guys have an awesome day. God bless all you guys. Love you.